So getting started with Emacs, if you're using Linux, you can install it from your system package manager. Some distros might even have it already. Otherwise, you can get it from the Emacs website if you're on Windows or Mac OS. Mac OS might actually even also be in Brew. I don't know. But yeah, Emacs website if you're on Windows. Otherwise, probably your system package manager. So the default Emacs looks like crap. And that image is a little small, but it's super shitty. A lot of people like to start with like vanilla Emacs and then kind of build up a configuration from there. I don't recommend that to beginners either. Vanilla Emacs is a disgusting artifact from, I don't know, the 80s, 90s. I don't fucking know. But it's terrible, and I don't recommend you use it. There's two different, like pre-made configurations. Some people call them distributions, but they're not really distributions because they don't ship as that. Like you just download the configuration files for them. So there's Doom Emacs, which, looks like this. It's very nice. It has tons and tons of modules installed for working in like any programming language. Comes with tools for all sorts of different things. I'll show you guys some of the different modules that it has a bit later. And then there's also Spacemacs. And both of them serve a lot of the same area of interest, I guess. This is a screenshot of Spacemacs just from the Spacemacs website. But Doom Emacs or Spacemacs, I would highly recommend for people starting out. I used Spacemacs for several months before switching to Doom Emacs. They're both very, very similar. The only reason I'm using Doom right now in particular, I consider them pretty on par with each other. The only specific reason I'm using Doom at the moment is because the last time I reinstalled Linux, I went to go install Spacemacs, but there was a bug in the build, so I installed Doom instead. So both of them combine the good parts of Vim and Emacs. So both of them use Vim-based key bindings for everything. They both also have the option to use the regular Emacs key bindings, but unless you want to give yourself carpal tunnel, I don't recommend them ever. They're not that bad, actually. But anyways, they both provide community-driven Emacs configuration with all of the common tools that you might want as a person that just wants a text editor that works, and you don't want to necessarily spend like half of your time programming every day configuring your text editor like I sometimes do. Providing a set of additional modules to easily use most programming languages. Some languages just out of the box work fantastically. JavaScript, Clojure, Common Lisp, Rust actually is really good too out of the box. I haven't really used that many other languages with it. But for like any given language, it does have decent support. It also provides a really consistent and coherent environment. When everything is just like text-based, it's very easy for people to introduce inconsistent interfaces, but Emacs is really, really consistent. And both Doom Emacs and Spacemacs provide these four core things. They both have their pros and cons, but at the end of the day, like, just install one. It doesn't matter. They're really similar. I like them both. So just a little bit of terminology before going too much further. Unfortunately, there is some new terminology to get used to in Emacs, and I'm actually going to open VS Code just to compare. So in Emacs, everything is like a text-based, what we call a buffer. And a buffer is it's a way for Emacs to show you something about either a file on your file system, or like a remote file or something, or a view of some sort into a process that's running on your computer. So it can be things like a text file, which is exactly what you guys are looking at right now. It can be whoops. It can be a file tree, like over here. It can be a terminal, so I can open up a terminal and run that inside Doom. And all of these are buffers. So it's just an interface between a file and a process. There's also windows, which are used, the term is used confusingly, because most of the time when you hear the term window, it's referring to like, this is the window that Emacs is in, or I have a window open for Discord, or a window open for my terminal, or whatever. But Emacs uses the word frame for that, and instead windows are things that exist within Emacs. So I have 3 windows open right now. I have this one that has like my text file. I have this one that has all of these buffers down here, so just messages, my terminal, a scratch pad for just random stuff, and then my file tree. Oops. Another important terminology is minor mode. So there's 2 different types of modes in Emacs. There's minor modes, as many of them as you want. Basically, what both of them are they for how things are going to happen within the buffer that you have open, and that determines like the core functionality for that buffer. So this one right now is using the org mode, major mode in this buffer. Over here, it's using the treemax major mode, which determines like how this buffer is going to behave like a tree, and how, like, if I hit enter on that, it'll like expand that directory. Or if I hit enter on that file, it'll open the file. So the major mode dictates like the core functionality of that buffer. And then the minor modes represent various different rules about them. So for example, if I have evil mode is a minor mode that's used everywhere across Doom Emacs and Spacemacs. So evil mode is the package that allows Emacs to emulate Vim key bindings. So if you use Vim, then like HJLK is going to be your navigation. Like you can use W to skip forward words, B to go backwards, stuff like that. I can use DD to delete a line. So evil mode provides that interaction with Emacs, and that's a minor mode. So both Doom Emacs and Spacemacs follow a specific strategy for key bindings that I've never really seen another text editor that uses. So I think it's really interesting to talk about. And basically, what they call them mnemonic key bindings because they're meant to be mnemonics. So basically, what that means is in both editors, you have a what's called a leader key, and when you hit that key, all that it does is it says to Emacs, "Hey, I'm going to start entering a sequence of key bindings, and based on the sequence of key bindings that you enter, that will be like the equivalent of your hotkey." So there's no like to save a file, it's not like Control S. You would do space, and then if you wait, then all of the possible options will come up at the bottom. So if I want to save something that I'm not saving a file, I'm technically saving a buffer. So I would do space B, and then here's all the different options for things that I can do with buffers. And then save is just S. So space BS is save buffer. And that's how all of the key bindings are organized. So it's very, very easy to remember all the different key bindings. And it makes it very natural to do them. And this makes Emacs really, really fantastic for heavy keyboard-driven workflows. So it's not fantastic if you want to use your mouse a lot, but because of the fact that it has this very easy and natural way to activate key bindings, it makes Emacs really fantastic for that, for keyboard-based workflows. So some examples of the key bindings you'd see in Doom Emacs are slightly different in Spacemacs. Is if you do like O, for example, then that's going to be all of the different key bindings for opening something. So space OA would be to open your agenda, a project, your terminal. B is the binding for all of your buffers. So going to the next buffer, going to the previous buffer, killing a buffer, saving a buffer. W would be for Windows, etc. So there's tons of key bindings in Emacs. I probably have hundreds, maybe over 1,000 right now. I don't know them all off the top of my head, obviously. But the fact that they're mnemonics makes them really, really easy to remember. And the fact that you have this that pops up to tell you what all of your options to do next are makes them really, really easy to explore. So if I forget how to do something with Git, for example, then I can do G here, and here's a bunch of different commands for what I can do with Git. So if I want to, let's see. So if I want to see like the status for this repository, then I can see that the Emacs directory here is untracked. I haven't committed any of this yet. So it's really easy to go and see that and know what the key bindings are going to do, because it'll tell you. And if you forget, then it's just right there. So Emacs has a couple kind of killer features, I guess. It's a buzzword for it, I guess. That like these are some of the features that like people will use Emacs just for those features. And one of them is Maggot, which is the Git interaction mode. I personally don't actually really know it that well, just because I learned to use Git on the command line, and that's good enough for me. So I actually don't really know Maggot super well, but I probably should, because it's apparently fantastic, and like people will just use Emacs as like a Git client. And then one of the other things that people will just use Emacs for is org mode. So org mode is a fantastic mode for really just like text-based organization stuff. So you can use it for all sorts of different things. You can use it for managing your agendas, task management. You can import and export to tons of different formats: Markdown, HTML, PDF, LaTeX, probably plenty of others, and import and export from those formats. You can use it for doing basic spreadsheet stuff. You can use it for literate programming. And I'll talk about some of these a little bit more in turn. But you can use org mode for tons and tons of different things. I've built websites using it because it's a really, really easy format for like describing a blog, for example. I've also used it for taking notes. It's great for taking notes in math classes because like this is just like plain LaTeX here that I have in line with just all my other plain text, and I can just do org LaTeX preview, and it will like inline on the fly turn all of this LaTeX into an image that I can like nicely look at that LaTeX. Right now, it might not be the best because the background color is a little bit different, so that space between lines makes it a little uncomfortable to look at. But Emacs being absurdly configurable, that's something that would be a single line of my config to change. So it's really, really fantastic for note taking, for like writing basic static websites. Like if you want to do like a blog or documentation for something, it's really good for that. And I'm going to talk about this one, literate programming, a little bit more. But like I said, I really, really poorly. Holy crap, I've only been talking for like not even 20 minutes yet. Okay, yeah. I'll move on to Emacs Lisp for now and then come back to literate programming. No, that's a bad idea. I'll do literate programming now. And I'm going to make this up as I go. So in Emacs, there are some things that are a little bit more verbose than Markdown, but that little bit of extra verbosity isn't necessarily a bad thing because it also allows it to fit a lot more into the syntax. So if I what was the repository that had that stuff in it again? I don't remember off the top of my head. That's fine. So I will say that this source block is going to be some Python code. So let's say I just want to have this source block just print the value of a variable. So down here at the bottom, I was just pointing to my screen. You guys obviously can't see that. So right here, this is various options for what you want your source block to do, basically. So you're able to get it to do a lot of different really cool things with that code, because in this textual format, it's not just there to look at, but you can actually execute that code in line. So if I do org babel is the org mode extension that allows you to execute code. So I can say, like I can execute all the code in the buffer, org babel execute function for nil. I don't know why that's given what that is. So org babel execute source block. So here it's printing the output of that block because print doesn't return anything. So if I change that to just X, then if I run that again, come on. No? There we go. So you can use it to evaluate code in line inside your text file, and then see the result right there. So I just forgot that it will treat what's in this as a function, basically, and then I actually have to explicitly return the value, just because I'm used to using Lisp, where you don't have to ever explicitly return stuff. But anyways, so I can write like some code inline here, and then execute that code. And instead of needing to like copy and paste code from like your text editor into here, and then like copy paste the result from your editor or your terminal into your notes or whatever, you can just do it all in line like this. And you can even actually, if I can remember how to do this off the top of my head, pass, like actually take the output of one block and use it as the input to another. So I think, how do you do this again? Shoot, I should have prepared. Give me 2 seconds. While I'm trying to remember how to do that, I'm gonna show some other stuff that you can do with this instead. So in addition to like just dealing with like regular like atomic variables, it'll also be able to handle outputting things like lists through dictionaries and stuff. So if I run that, then it will output that as what's actually an org mode table. So it will treat that as a table that can then be like read in from the next source block. So if I change this to like what's the syntax for dictionaries in Python again? I think this is right. Somebody wants to tell me if I'm doing that wrong and this is going to fail. Tell me now. Okay, invalid syntax.
Definitely going to fail.
What's the syntax?
You need a colon there.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, right. Sorry. That's not what I was expecting at all. Okay, maybe it doesn't work as well with tables. Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Alrighty, cool. Technical issues, unpreparedness. Man. I am really shit at this today, apparently.
It's alright. Today I broke production for an hour.
Oof, what happened?
I tried to restore a database, but I still had the production database connection string in my history, so I used that
Oh
instead.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's super shitty.
I was trying to go fast, but I was going too fast, I guess.
Yeah.
It's alright.
Yeah. And my first co-op. Oh, thank you for sending me that. My first co-op. I was working at my Starship, and the IT. I was like working for the IT team at my Starship over the summer because they were like completely replacing the school's infrastructure with like a virtual desktop infrastructure. So I was working with them to do that. And one day I accidentally deleted everything in Active Directory on one of the servers, and they had a backup, so it was fine, but I never heard the end of it after that. They always made fun of me for that because I deleted the Active Directory. So anyways, thank you for sending me that. I didn't really want to Google it in the middle. I was hoping it would just come back to me about how exactly to do that. But yeah, so you can send data.
By the way, your screen sharing's off.
Yeah.
Oh shit, is it? Oh, okay, thank you.
And also, I think you could have used a snippet for that. If you didn't know how to type it properly, there's probably a YAL snippet already in Emacs. I use them a lot, actually.
Yeah, probably. Okay, why is... I think my computer is slightly overheating. I've got a lot of stuff running right now, so I don't think it's super happy with me at the moment. But whatever, it's gonna keep going. Nope, that's not the right screen. Okay, and I'm back. All right. So thank you for sharing the syntax for that with me. So yeah, so here I've named this block. I'm going to name it, I'm going to rename it to Hello World. And then in my next block, what I'm able to do is say that the variable x here is equal to the output of the Hello World block. And then if I do just return x here, because it's going to be the that's just going to be the input to that. So I can run this block, and that will output hello, and then I can run this block, and it's taken the output from this one, and then it's just taking that as the input and then returning that. So this would be basically like an identity function in a programming language, except it's just right inside this file that I can then like export this as whatever. And what's really cool is that I can do this between multiple different languages too. So I can take the output from this Python program, and I'm pretty sure JavaScript works. I don't know what modules I have installed right now for org mode. But let's take this and split it at each character. And then I'm going to run this Python code that still just outputs the exact same thing, obviously. And then I can run this JavaScript code that takes the output of the Python program and manipulates it in a JavaScript program. So it's really, really, really cool because it kind of removes a bit of the barrier between languages by giving them a really simple and really like just a really simple interface for data to be passed between them, because it's all just text, right? And these tables are very simple. So org mode is very, very cool for that. Being able to pass data between blocks, and you can do much more complicated things with this as well. You can, for example, use sessions. So that's one of the things that's recommended down here at the bottom of the screen. There's sessions. I don't know what languages support sessions off the top of my head because not all languages do. But with sessions, then what I could do is, like, for example, all of my Python source code blocks that are in the same file, I can have them all use the same session. So if I have this variable x up here, and if I were to make this be a Python block as well, that's using the same session, then any functions or variables that I define in this Python block will also be available in this one because they're using the same session. So that lets you do some really cool things because, like, you can have like full interaction between the same programming language at the same level that you would have, like the same level of interaction that you would have in just like a normal Python file. But then also the ability to, within the same file, have multiple programming languages and passing data between those programming languages. So it's really, really cool stuff. And all of this is made available because of Emacs Lisp. So Emacs Lisp is the language that we use to configure Emacs. As the name says, it is a Lisp, which means you have to use Lisp. Oh no, the horror. It's very similar to Common Lisp, like you learn in 348. In fact, I think that everything that you learn in 348 is equally applicable to Emacs Lisp. I don't think that there's anything you learn in that class that isn't applicable to it as well. And using Emacs Lisp, you can completely change literally anything about Emacs. You can change the way that everything behaves depending on what programming language you're using. You can change the way that everything behaves depending on what the file type is. So like normally there's like just like a static mapping of like file extensions to what language the editor will treat that as. In Emacs, you can do whatever you want with that. You can run a function whenever a specific file type is opened and do whatever you want. What's up? Somebody say something? No? I thought somebody said something. Okay. So it's completely programmable. You can change whatever you want. So one small example is this is just an excerpt from a package that I wrote that's actually in the Emacs package repository. And all of the package does is it changes the way that some movement happens. So with Vim key bindings, normally like you move around using HJKL. And then if you do, I don't even know what the defaults do. If I do like, I think if I do like H, then it'll like combine, it'll like move this to like the back of the previous line like that or something. I don't know. But I never used those functions. And so I wrote a package that completely changes the way you navigate through indentation. So for example, instead of like moving down and then hitting W here to move down like that, then if I do Shift L, then it will move me up and down through various levels of indentation. And I can also like jump back and forth between multiple places that share the same level of indentation. And it's really nice for like getting around like big files really quickly. If they have like a lot of functions, for example, then that just lets me like jump to the beginning of every function. So this is the Starship project for Rust. Anybody that uses Linux terminal probably is familiar with this. It's just it's a prompt for various terminals. So it just looks like this. But I was working on adding a module to it. So I happen to have the source code right here. That's not the window I wanted to delete. So if I open up the module for closure that I was working on, for example, hello? Oh, it's starting the language server for Rust, so it needs to look at the entire project. Oh, actually, probably took a long time because it failed. I don't care about the language server right now. I just want to show this. So, like, just that one little function lets me like jump back and forth between same levels of indentation, which is really, really nice for like navigating around a big file because like I can just take a really quick look at the name of the function as I'm going by and just kind of skip a whole lot of code until I see like the function name that I'm looking for example. And it makes it really, really quick and really convenient doing that. But all of that, and it's like, what's this, like 20 lines of code? 18. So having full access to like not just a basic configuration language like JSON and an actual programming language lets you really, really easily configure the editor to do just whatever you want it to do. And it's also a really, really easy experience to do that. So if I open up a new file here, I can change the major mode to Emacs Lisp really easily. So if I do space, then it just lets me enter any interactive command. So here you can see there's 10,137 different commands that I could enter right now. I don't even know what a tiny fraction of them do. But those are just the public interactive commands. In addition to that, when you're writing Emacs Lisp, if I want to call a function, I'm going to says okay. So if I want to why is it not doing it right now? Maybe I need to be in an actual Emacs Lisp file. I shouldn't need to be, but I will open my config file. My config file is mostly just defining a shit ton of key bindings. That's what these 400 lines of code are, just defining key bindings, because I'm very specific and I like specific things. So, but anyways, so if I do like, No, it's still not doing it. Huh. Okay. Well, that's my fault. That's something broken about my configuration right now. But anyways, what I was going to show you is like when you are writing an Emacs Lisp file. Partly this is because Emacs Lisp is a poorly designed programming language, but also it has its merits sometimes. But basically, there's no private functions in Emacs or variables. Everything is public, which means that like normally when I start typing, I should see tons of options for autocomplete. I don't know why it's not happening right now. But basically, you have access to like tens of thousands of functions that you can call, and most of them are like relatively specific to packages. Like I don't really care most of the time about, I don't know, what my spell checker is doing. Like I don't want to usually interact with that. But it means you also have access to like all of Emacs's internal functions. So like hundreds of functions that are defined in C that make up like the core of Emacs. You have access to all of that. So I think it's buffer list. Oh, okay, cool. All right. So like all of these like buffer related functions are all things that are like defined in the C source code for Emacs, and it gives you access to just calling like anything. If I want to see the window-related functions because I want to make a package that interacts with Windows in a specific way, all of these functions are --. That's like the standard to indicate that something is private. But here I have access to all of it. So if there's something that like a package author decided that they're going to make private, but maybe wasn't necessarily the best idea for them to have made private because other people can make good use of it too, you have access to everything. So there is tens of thousands of different functions that you can use to make Emacs do anything that you want it to do. Which is awesome if you are very particular about how you like things to behave like I am, but is also a fantastically massive waste of time if you are very particular about the way things work like I am. Because I think my whole configuration right now is like 600 lines of code or something. Like there's 200 in just this one file, and that's just key bindings, and then I have even more key bindings in this file, and this is like 600 lines. So actually, god, this config is huge. So it's a great if you have a lot of time on your hands. It's a huge time sink, but it doesn't have to be. This is just because I'm, again, very particular about the way that things work. So it's really great if you find yourself like wondering which editor you should be using and feeling like you're jumping around between different editors for a lot of different programming languages, because Emacs is able to do anything and everything. It even has like web browser and email and tons of other stuff that I don't use, but it's able to do everything. So if I go to the init.el file here, these are all of the modules that Doom Emacs comes with that are all part of the configuration. So everything that's commented out is currently not downloaded. So I don't have a bunch of crap that I don't need. I do have a bunch of crap that I don't need, but I don't have I get to choose the crap that I have that I don't need, at least. So there's like dozens of various packages and tools that you can install. So like here's the different tools for different languages. There's so much stuff here. Like you have like any popular language that you might want on here, as far as I know, and also like some really uncommon stuff like Coq, which is theorem prover language. There's Agda, Elm, Foss. I don't even know what that is. But like any language that you want. There's also options for extra modules that you want for those languages. So like for Rust and Ruby, I've also installed the language server protocol modules, which give you some really nice tools from LSP. If you're not super familiar with what LSP is, I really recommend you look into it because it's actually super, super cool. Although probably not really interesting if you just use VS Code because it kind of hides all that stuff away from you anyways, and you don't have to worry about it. But in Emacs, you do have to worry about LSP sometimes, or in Vim, just because you have to configure some stuff for LSP yourself. But yeah, here it's got like email clients. There's 3 different email clients you can install. IRC client, Twitter client, RSS, all sorts of different things. So yeah, and all of these you just have to uncomment them and then run the command doom/reload, and it'll just reload your config, download all of the modules that you need, all the packages that you need. If you've recommented some of them, then it'll go and uninstall all of that stuff for you. So it's really, really nice. Doom Emacs tries to follow a declarative configuration style for the modules, kind of like I'm going to say it, NixOS, kind of like NixOS, where it'll try to be declarative as possible, and if you download somebody else's configuration, it should just work exactly like theirs does, which is really nice for if you're like looking at somebody else's configuration that has some stuff that you need out of it. It's really quick to just take it. So yeah, I don't know what else to talk about. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one. Well, from what I've seen so far is that Emacs is sort of ambivalent with, well, not ambivalent, but like it's difficult. It's so integrated that it's difficult to tell what's actually written to the file and what's just declaration. Like in the previous one where you were running code, I saw this hashtag, like the hashtag characters. And I couldn't tell if that was actually being written to the file, like the results of your of running the code. I couldn't tell what's being written to a file and what's not, especially when you have images like inside the file.
Yeah. So all of this is just it's just text, right? So like all of the hashtag stuff, like that's just like the syntax for declaring metadata, basically. It's just metadata for the file. And then like this metadata is just saying that everything between these two things should be treated as or should be styled to look like source code. So like everything outside of it is like regular text, whereas this is all monospace font. So it can be a little tough to tell sometimes which is why like I try to make good use of various different styling. So like the background color for everything that's between source code blocks is like lightened, and the text is small, so it's like not obstructive, and like you just have the code to make it like easier to focus on. But yeah, it can make it like, I guess, a little hard sometimes to know what's what. But anytime that you see something that doesn't look like text, as soon as you start to modify it, it'll go right back to text real quick. So even if I go up to the images, if I backspace on that, this is just a URL. So if it's all just using like specific syntax for like inserting that image in there. And I can choose to not display it as an image. And then just again, if I want it to be an image, or toggle inline images, I guess that they were already technically turned on, so I have to turn on, so I have to turn them back on again. So it's really easy to like see what's going on behind it, because it's all just text, and as soon as you start to edit it, it'll revert back to like its regular representation for you.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, Emacs is intimidating because it doesn't try to hide anything from you, but it's also really, really powerful because it doesn't try to hide anything from you. So, yeah. Anybody else?
Do you have any shortcuts or functions that you use in Emacs, like search and replace or something like that, that you think is better in Emacs versus, say, VS Code?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, like, I'm not a huge fan of the like pop-up that comes up when you do Control F in VS Code. Doom and Spacemacs and stuff follow the Vim way of just like having the little search down at the bottom. So if I type in begin, then I can see all the begin stuff. But like, there's no like specific, like any one specific tool that like other editors also have that I necessarily think that Emacs does super better, like particularly better. For me, it's like the combination of everything. Like, I don't particularly think that Emacs does anything poorly. And anything that I do think that it might do a little poorly or that doesn't meet my expectations, I can just change it, and I can fix that very easily. So, yeah. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I guess you use it for many different languages, so you have the same good old features for everything.
Yeah, so right now I'm using this for I've used Emacs for like the entire, like the full web stack, like Node.js backend, JavaScript front end, HTML, CSS, TypeScript, React Native, ClojureScript, Common Lisp, Emacs Lisp, obviously, Prolog, SQL, Python, Rust, C, C++, tons and tons of languages. So like, it's the fact that Emacs just like just works with everything. That like is one of the things that I really like about it.
It's nice that you got it to work with React. I didn't manage to get autocomplete and fancy stuff like that. With
I actually, React is one of the few things that I do think the experience is better in VS Code. I do use Emacs for React on a pretty regular basis because I do React Native for work. But sometimes if I don't already have Emacs open, I will sometimes just open VS Code if I think that day I'm not going to be touching any other stuff. If I think that day I'm just going to be doing React and TypeScript, then sometimes I'll just use VS Code for that day. But any day that like I'm also doing Clojure at work, like I don't bother switching. I just use Emacs for React Native, TypeScript, and then Clojure and Clojure script.
Makes sense.
I joined this late, so sorry if you already mentioned this, but is there like a centralized...
God, you joined late?
I know, I'm really actually hoping this is being recorded. But yeah, is there like a centralized way to like... an easy way to find like extensions? Because like one thing that's nice about VS Code is that you can just sort of download an extension from like a list or from Vim. It's easy to just do Vim plug or whatever extension manager you use. Is there like a version of that for Emacs?
Yeah, so there's a handful of different package managers for Emacs. Doom Emacs uses 2 different ones simultaneously. So you can just do package install. And then if I run that, there's like, you can set up various different package repositories to install from. So apparently I haven't installed anything in a while because it had to refresh the repositories. But here I can, like, if I want the FZF plugin, for example, which I'm actually kind of surprised that I didn't have that already. Like I can just go right there and install it like that. And it'll just install FZF. There's also another package manager. So that's I think it's literally just called like package.el for that package manager. There's another one called straight.el that is a wrapper around that one, but also lets you like just install arbitrary GitHub repositories as packages as well, which is really nice because not everything's going to be in the package repositories that you want. There's 2 main ones. There's ELPA, which I don't know what it stands for. And then there's MELPA, which is the same thing, just starting with an M. And MELPA is the bigger one. It's the one that's not run by GNU. So if it's not run by GNU, then you just know that it's going to have more stuff in it because GNU is very, very picky. And yeah. So if I open Firefox and just gonna go to Melpa to show you briefly. But yeah, you can like find packages just by doing like package install and then like typing in kind of the keywords for packages that you want, or you can actually go to the Melpa website to search for packages, which I generally think is... Oh, I just turned on my camera. I don't want that. Why is my camera on? Okay. I'm sorry you had to... I wanted to do. My computer is running absurdly slowly right now. So misclicking is easy right now. Melpa. Oh man, this is painful. Milky Postman's Emacs Lisp package archive. That's a mouthful. Come on. Yeah. So here's just all the packages that are in it. It's only 5,000 packages, I guess, which isn't nearly as big as VS Code's package repository archive, whatever it's called. But most of the packages are pretty solid. And I've never found that there was something that I needed or really wanted that I wasn't able to find in it personally. So if I want to look for Rust packages, then I got tons of stuff for Rust here. If I want to look at Golang, yeah, plenty of stuff for working in Go. I've got lots of, I guess this is Java and JavaScript stuff, but yeah, there's packages for pretty much everything that I've needed so far.
I was just wondering, I recently, well, not recently. Anyways, I was just wondering, if you could show us, how, what debugging is like on Emacs.
So right now, I'm only using Emacs to debug closure, which is a very, very different debugging experience from most other languages. Pardon?
I said yeah, for sure. Sorry.
It doesn't give you like debugging closure. You don't have the same kind of step over, step into, step out of whatever like you have in most other languages. It's an interactive debugger that when you when an exception gets hit or something, for example, it lets you choose what you want to do at that point in time, and it lets you rewind to go back or replace the expression that failed and stuff. So it's a very different kind of debugging experience than in most languages. I don't really have a good setup for debugging TypeScript right now. My debugging strategy for every language for the past 6 years has almost always been print line, so I just prefer that over actual debuggers.
The JavaScript life.
I don't know. I've just always preferred printing stuff. It works the same in every language. It makes it easy. I do resort to a debugger sometimes, but not often. Anybody else? I think there's more people here at the end than there was halfway through the talk. People left and then more people joined. It's a reverse bell curve. It's weird. Anyways, if there's no more questions, then I think I'm done. I apologize for my lack of preparedness and for the technical difficulties that I had during the talk.
Thanks for giving that talk, man. It was great.
One suggestion.
Thank you.
This would have been way better if it was a Vim talk. Just small suggestion.
Yes, Emacs is bloat, we know. But I still love it. Alright, thank you everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was good.
Bye.
Good.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll be more prepared the next time I talk.